And we're neighbors today. We're still going to be neighbors after Election Day, God willing. And let's just keep it that way.
Yes.
All right. As the Alexes said, we circulated a community survey. We got 30 responses from 6 neighborhoods, and we've grouped those concerns into the top 6 that we thought were multi-neighborhood issues deserving multi-neighborhood solutions. And so that is really the spirit of this forum, advocating for our residents, business owners, and people who commune in our neighborhoods to make District 12 sort of across borders the incredible place to live, gather, and work that it is for all of us. I think that is all we have for opening remarks. We're going to pass it to King Williams to introduce himself, and then we're going to get started. We're imagining about a 45-minute moderated forum with those pre-generated questions, which will leave about 30 minutes for live Q&A from folks here. Thumbs up if you're all good. Yeah, awesome. Thanks, everyone.
A little slow. How's everybody doing? All right.
Hello.
All right. Once again, okay, this is new to me. All right, my name is King Williams. I am a journalist here in Atlanta, born and raised. I am looking forward to tonight's conversation. I represent many journalistic organizations, the 2 of which I'm really proud of is the Atlanta Voice, which is one of the oldest and continually operating Black-owned newspapers here in Atlanta. The other one is Decatur-ish, which is on the eastern side of town, which covers everything from East Atlanta to Decatur in that particular zone and quadrant of news. Tonight's conversation, again, will be 45 minutes, and we'll have a 30-minute session for you guys to ask questions to the candidates directly. I ask one thing and one thing only. Please be respectful of everyone here. If you have a question for the candidate, we can't get it, please let me know. We'll write it down. We'll give it to the candidate so they can answer you as well, okay? All right. So before we get started, we're going to have each candidate will have a question, and each candidate will have the option to answer the question. If the candidate does not want to, they can just say pass, okay? So once again, each candidate has an opportunity to answer any question that's given, but if they like to pass, they can say pass, okay, everybody? All right. So first question for my candidates. This is for all 3. When it comes to District 12 in particular, this is about the vision of District 12. The question is, what are the 3 most pressing issues you believe this district must tackle to ensure our communities thrive? Again, what are the 3 most pressing issues you believe this district must tackle to ensure our communities thrive? Whoever would like to go first.
I'll go.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephanie Flowers. The 3 top issues I think District 12 is facing is public safety, housing stability, and infrastructure investment. Public safety, supporting our Atlanta Fire Rescue and supporting APD with staffing and resources, and expanding our youth programming for our youth. Housing stability, protecting residents from displacement and expanding affordable housing. Infrastructure investment, fixing sidewalks, lights, potholes, and transit.
Okay. Thank you, candidate Flowers. Anybody else like to answer the question?
I'll go. So the 3, District 12 is vibrant and resilient, like you said, and the 3 most important issues facing the district to me are economic mobility, infrastructure, and I would say public safety, but we have a plan there. So I would say greedy developers. They are upset that I won't let them turn our district into a de facto hotel district. And so the 3rd thing we would have would be the greedy developers.
Okay. Candidate Lewis. Anything? All right. Candidate Davis, do you have anything you want to add?
Yes. And thank you all for allowing us the opportunity to speak with you here tonight. Thank you for the invitation. The vision that I have for District 12, I think the 3 things that I would love to focus on is affordable housing, sustainable affordable housing. We have to build housing and preserve housing that's going to sustain us for the future. We're dealing with not only affordability issues, but environmental issues that we have to heed now. Public safety, we have to keep our community safe, and what that looks like. That's just not APS. That's the totality of public safety, whether that's safe streets that we're able to walk on, how we're able to keep safe, and just basic our city delivering on city services. And third, it will be infrastructure and transportation for me. Infrastructure, whether we're talking about green, gray, or digital. We know that we have to be intentional on the south side of Atlanta to jump in front of the development that's coming.
Okay. My next question for all three candidates. This is regarding public safety. Public safety.
Hey, sorry to pause. It's hard to hear in the bass. Kind of like.
Yeah, there's a delay. You guys are okay with that?
Okay. The next question again relates to public safety. Public safety for all includes reducing crime and gun violence, but it also includes how we support housing insecure neighbors, addressing addiction, and ensuring that all community members have safe spaces to gather. The question for all three candidates is the following. If elected, what steps would you take to advance a comprehensive and a compassionate public safety plan? Again, if elected, what steps would you take to advance a comprehensive and a compassionate safety plan? Whichever candidate would like to go first.
I'll start off. My goal is to be progressive, not aggressive when it comes to public safety. When you look at what we've been able to do, we've been able to reduce crime in the past 2 years, 23% one year and 9% the very next year. We won the crime award in the city of Atlanta, but we didn't do it by locking people up. We knew we couldn't lock up our way out this situation like we did last time. In fact, the APD comes to public safety committee meetings and they say the words, we can't lock our way up out of this. What we did from the moment I got elected was have job fairs. Did that first. We started getting people jobs that we knew they could get. We started off on the back of the truck and we knew you could grow. And then you look at the Mayor's Year of the Youth. That was me literally picking up the water boys, driving them to, it started by 1 year, me picking up water boys, driving them to Metropolitan Parkway and creating a program with BMI in which we put $35,000 into it and the mayor gave us $15,000. And the very next year you have the Year of the Youth. And if you look at it, Stephanie's son is actually a kid that we actually put in this program, my Fox, to make sure that he would get the access because my goal was to be what I needed because I know the way you fight public safety is by fighting economic mobility. And then we've been able to decrease crime. The stats are 23% 1 year, 9% the very next year. In the last 2 years I've been elected. And to be further, we actually reached out, looked at, I don't know if she...
Keep going.
Okay.
Second.
And to go even further, we actually looked across the country at legislation that can help decrease crime. When you see the police ride around the city with their blue lights on, that's legislation I put forth. When you see the lockbox initiative in which we didn't spend $1 for the city of Atlanta, it was federal funds, that's legislation I put forth. The goal is to decrease crime without doing what we did last time.
Okay. Next candidate, I believe, candidate Flowers. You want to go next?
Yes, I do. I want to first say my son has never been a part of the Mayor's Year of the Youth program, never. But I would say one of the things that I would like to do is expand the Cure Violence program for our youth mentorship, with the youth mentorship programming, after school programming, and career readiness to make sure that our youth are ready, not just being from preventing crime, but how do they be ready for society, whether they're in the city of Atlanta or outside the city of Atlanta. I will also work to address housing insecurity for our people that are living, our unhoused population. How do we create transitional housing? How do we do wraparound services and supports to them and offer mental health services to those families, those people that are on the street? So those are the things that I would do. No, my son did not get paid.
We'll give it 1 second.
My son volunteered services. My son did not get paid. He volunteered services.
Candidate Flowers.
So yes,
Candidate Davis.
public safety, again, it's more than policing. It's a comprehensive plan. And I think that we do have to invest in violent prevention programs that work directly with the youth and families at risk. And again, it's not just offering opportunities and more jobs that's absolutely amazing, but we have to be able to offer good paying jobs for our youth to be involved in. And so investing in workforce development will allow us to do that. Supportive services for our neighbors struggling with housing and insecurities and addiction. We know we have to partner with outreach groups, whether it's PAD or Grady itself. So collaborating with our partners on a municipal level, but also a county level. And investing in safe spaces like parks, recreation centers, libraries, where our community gather. I think everything, all of our solutions, whether it's public safety or anything else, it has to be community driven. And with all of us connecting together, we can solve many of these issues that we're facing.
The question is as follows. What comprehensive steps or strategies would you implement to address the negligent property owners and blight? What comprehensive steps or strategies would you implement to address negligent property owners and blight?
Thank you for that question. So when you think about what we've done so far, we've taken more steps this past 4 years than we ever had. Councilmember Amos, he was able to work on some legislation that I didn't fully approve because it didn't go far enough. Councilmember Amos was able to work on legislation that we were able to actually go into to take folks to court and to fine them more money. The amount of money people actually fined was $20 sometimes a day, right? Sometimes $20 a day. So we had to increase that fine. So imagine how many people that you know that would pay that $20 fine. The investigations we've done since I've been elected we've never done. You look at what happened in Pavilion Place, right? We found out that in our district, in District 12, we have one negligent owner that owns some apartments on Cleveland Avenue, on Pire Road, and that's Maynard 3 on Pire Road in Joyland and Pavilion Place. These are some of our worst apartments in our city of Atlanta. We took him to court. He made the news. So that's the one that made the news, the one from District 12. And so when you talk about blight, you talk about working with people, you know that my goal has been to strengthen code enforcement. When I got elected, they had 12 code enforcement officers. Look at the budget hearings. I'm the one who asked that we double it. And I asked that we double it again. I knew we had 26 NPUs. Why do we have 12 code enforcement officers? And I just found out that code enforcement officers can be pulled to different areas. And so that's something that we're trying to make sure, because there's supposed to be 2 per district. And so the fight is a fight. And I've been able to increase the budget. And I asked that they increase it more. So you need someone to make sure that we are always being taken care of on the South Side, not someone who's going to go in there and do what people say. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't come with the background that Antonio come with, but I will first look at what is happening within the code enforcement department, because I think that one of the issues with finding and holding accountable those big developers and these property owners is how are the systems, which is Fulton County and the city a seller system, are communicating with each other to find out who owned the property before it flips again. And so I think for me, that would be one thing that I would try to dig into to see what are the hurdles and what are the barriers preventing the city of Atlanta from holding those property owners accountable, but also looking at what the in-real process is and how people go to court and what happened with the fees and all of that. So the accountability portion is another thing that I will look at to make sure that they are strengthened, strong enough, and we can see some action move around our neighborhoods. Like I said, fun public libraries.
Yeah, there's. Yes, and I think the only thing that I can add to that is we definitely have to strengthen our funds. And I also agree with some of the legislation by Councilmember Byron Amos, where he stated negligent property owners, blighted properties that have seriously impacted to the health of neighborhoods, that they will seize those properties. And so I absolutely agree with that. But I want to make sure that we don't go down the rabbit hole of seizing properties from individuals that have been living in these communities that just need resources to help them get up to code. And so that's what I would do. Thank you.
The next question for all 3 candidates is related to transportation. What is your plan to advance public transportation options for this district? Again, first questions. What is your plan to advance the public transportation options for this district? Whichever candidate would like to go first.
A strong transportation system connects people to opportunity. And so, one, I would advance, we know that our transportation authority here is MARTA. So we have to do everything that we can to collaborate effectively with MARTA. It's been too much finger pointing. And no one wants to take responsibility. And so making MARTA more healthy and healthy meaning that a safer system for everyone to ride, a cleaner system for everyone to connect to, but also making sure that dollars that we're already taxing people for are used and used equitably. And I advocate for, we are building around, in District 12, we are building around the Beltline. I 100% support Beltline rail extension. We need Beltline rail now. And so I fully support that. We have to improve MARTA services frequency in our district as well. And to go beyond that, I will push for safer pedestrian infrastructure. So we still have to talk about sidewalks. We still have to talk about street lighting. We still have to talk about crosswalk improvement for our seniors and our youth. And so I think those are the things that I will focus on. But again, building along with those coalitions. Whether we're talking about the Department of Transportation, we will have conversations with them throughout our entire tenure, not just during an election season, or not when they come in front of us asking us for more money to allocate towards them. Thank you.
The South Side of Atlanta communities have been waiting for so long for this. My plan will begin working with the mayor's office and the city council to reprioritize T-SPLOST dollars and more MARTA dollars to fund our district, putting District 12 first. I will push for the Campbellsville BRT, the Southside Beltline, and pedestrian upgrades. I would demand that MARTA and ABI give clear timelines on the projects. I will work with the mayor to integrate sidewalk crosswalks, lights, in all projects that comes forth.
No, I appreciate you for that. And to think about, MARTA started the same year that the Metro started in DC. Same map. MARTA had a map. Metro had a map. They both had a map. I was in DC this weekend. I used to live in DC. I lived in Philadelphia. So I know what it's like to have good public transportation. I also lived in Denver, Colorado. I know what it's like not to have what MARTA is. MARTA needs competition. That's a big deal. That's part of what we were talking about when I was in office. MARTA needs competition. They changed their CEO three times now since I've been elected. So it's been harder to push on that. I was the loudest voice when it came to Councilman Road BRT. When we started that, I was the loudest voice on that. When you think about MARTA, the restrooms aren't even open in District 12, being loud on making them do that. And now all of our restrooms are open and our restrooms are District 12. But transportation is the key. My office worked hard to get the Southside Beltline completed first. If you look at the Southside Beltline 4 years ago, we were not where we are now. We did not have funding to get it done. We worked with the Beltline. You can look at the paperwork. We worked with the Beltline to find $10 million, working with Senator John Ossoff. We worked to complete the Southside Beltline first, and I'll tell you what that led to. That led to the Beltline buying the pad next door. They bought that 10 years earlier than they ever planned to. They bought it because other people wanted to buy it. My goal for transportation, my vision for transportation is to connect every single community to the Atlanta Beltline. When I was elected, no one talked about the Beltline getting to South Atlanta High School. We now have the funds and the plans already committed to get that done. So the only part is the city of Atlanta without, or Jonesboro Road in the state of Georgia without sidewalk. District 12. We have someone working now to make sure we're connected, and we just connected. That means all of our high schools in our area will be connected. My goal is to connect everybody to the Atlanta Beltline. Thank you again.
For our candidates, our next set of questions regarding the topic of sustainability. So again, the next set of questions will regard the topic of sustainability. The first question is, what is your vision for improving environmental sustainability in District 12? Again, what is your vision for improving environmental sustainability in District 12? Whoever would like to go first.
And so we do live in a city and a forest. That's what I would tell you. So when you think about the environmental issues that we have going on in our area, you have to think about the natural issues that we have. But I'll tell you what I've done since I've been elected to work on these environmental issues. As a resident, I used to walk home from basketball practice from South Atlanta High School, and I would get soggy socks because the creek would flood. To understand as a council person, the kids are still getting soggy socks. When I got elected, made me ask the watershed department exactly what are our biggest issues in District 12? Found out soggy socks is number 2, Lakewood Dam number 1. We were able to work with the federal administration. We had a more friendly administration. We were able to work with them to get funding for Lakewood Dam through the Army Corps of Engineers. The Southside Dam, or the Pool Creek area, which is at South Atlanta, what we have to do with them, we put together a team with the Atlanta Watershed Department and the Department of APS, and they're working to find the funding for that. Lastly, what I've done as well is I reached out to Councilmember Norwood, asked her about what a Buckhead issues. The saying is when it rains on Buckhead, it floods on District 12. I rode Buckhead with her for 3 hours. If you look at the last watershed committee, I joined her committee for her Buckhead Infrastructure Task Force, right? And well, not the last, you see I got off of it in the last one because they just put forth their plans. She's been on council 20 plus years, and it took her this long to get it. I joined her committee. I got off of it the moment it was over. She said I'm the only council member from this side to go to Buckhead and ride with her for 3 hours because I want to know how do they not have floods, and we're about to implement that same plan they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on. She gave it to me for free. And it's all about just replacing the names and making sure we get the same thing, because that's what I've been down there, making sure that we get what they got. Thank you.
I would say that starting with stormwater, making sure that our stormwater drains are upgraded, that they, in our vulnerable parts of our neighborhoods, so we won't have the floodings. I will push for green infrastructure with the T-SPLOST dollars. And currently, I will make sure that we have protection for our families that are living in these places where we have flooding, and preserve us from the heat and all those things that are happening.
We know we have to invest in the green infrastructure. And while we're building the south side of Atlanta, and while we're building Atlanta as a whole, we have to invest when we're investing in our great infrastructure. We have to do so sustainably as well. So oftentimes, and we still see where the city of Atlanta, we're throwing asphalt out there, and we're not investing in permeable pavers. We know that there is more flooding on the south side of Atlanta than anywhere in the city. So investments have not been diverted here. We've been dealing with this for generations. And so, again, and we know that intentionally we're dealing with environmental issues from more pollution because of our highway system that was intentionally placed in our neighborhoods as well. So, again, we have to send someone who's intentional, that's going to work on the things that we need to, and offer assistance to individuals that would like to upgrade their homes, to preserve their homes, to make them energy efficient, whether we're talking about cool roofs, or, creating mechanisms where we can filter temperatures from the actual Earth's core. And so, again, we need someone intentional at City Hall who will intentionally think about these things. Thank you.
For the candidates, the next question is the following. What is your plan to address expanded data centers? What is your plan to address expanding data centers? Whoever would like to go first?
Well, my plan is to not expand data centers. Because, and then we already know that that's a huge environmental issue as well. We use more water to cool their servers in maintaining those buildings. They provide any economic opportunities to provide more jobs will offer incentives, but not at the expense of our communities. That's why that wouldn't support it at all.
Yeah, Flowers.
My plan is the same, not to expand data centers, because we know the energy burden that it puts on our families, but also the health concerns and the health risk that comes with that. So my plan is to not support data centers.
So every policy I support, I do it with the principles I believe in. I always believe in what's the best interest of the residents, my constituents, and I live here. I'm not going nowhere. All my family lives right here in District 12. So these is how I do anything I vote for. I'm always open to hearing different points. And so when you look at the data center issue, the legislation that we had 1 year ago in our area, we had an organization that purchased a piece of property 20 plus years ago with the understanding that they could put certain things in there. The exchange from downtown, the data exchange that's already downtown, reached out to them about purchasing and working with them. They went to the community. I have community members who send me emails, and this is community leadership. They send me emails with points of how they thought we could actually get this done. That's community leadership. That's NPU leadership, the presidents telling me how they can get this done, telling you that there's some missed things going on in the community. And so that was one of the biggest things that was one of the biggest things, and we were able to hold it back. And we'll tell you this, it's a case-by-case scenario. We don't have, since I've been elected, we haven't put up data centers in District 12. We haven't. They asked to be reverted back to what they had before we created the new law in the city of Atlanta that we tried to exempt them from the beginning. Since then, they've actually done exemptions to that law. Since then, since that vote, they've actually done exemptions to their law.
All right, the next question is collaboration. This question is the following. How would you work with the mayor's office and other city council members to deliver on your plans? Again, how would you work with the mayor's office and other city council members to deliver on your plans?
I would work with the mayor's office and other council members to deliver on my plan by going to them in a collaborations, in the spirit of a collaboration. Keeping the interests of District 12 in mind as I'm having those conversations and being able to share with them what the impact is on certain things that are happening for District 12, but always open to collaboration and going in with what I think District 12 need to be sustainable. And so that's what I would lead with District 12 in mind with priorities for collaboration.
And I would echo that as well. Having a great working relationship with our potential colleagues on council and the administration is vital. And to be quite honest, that's why I got in this race. I felt we didn't have an effective collaborator at City Hall. I've sat down, I've reached out to every single council member that serve on the city council, because I would love to approach everything with a collaborative approach. And if those open communications are there, we're going to disagree on many things, but we're able to get things done. And so, again, that was one of the reasons why we decided to get off the sidelines, and we would ensure that not only we work with the mayor, but working with our departments and collaborating effective with departments and the department's head, as well as the people that's working in those departments. And we'll do that my entire tenure and not just on an election season.
And the goal is to always make sure you get resources for hiring. I've been able to work with everyone on the council to get things done. The reason the Southside Beltline is here is because the squeaky wheel got it. Our district no longer needs a person who just say, hey, come get me. Don't run somebody against me. I'll do what you say. We don't need someone to be a part of the nod squad. We need somebody who makes sure that they understand policy, because they worked in D.C. on Capitol Hill for Congressman Lacey Clay Jury. And they've been doing this since they was in college, when they worked for a lobbyist and they had to push the message. And then they worked for the labor union for 6 years, in which their job was to do collaboration. So the goal, when you look at the mayor's year of the youth plan, that's where we hired over 7,000 kids right here in the city of Atlanta. Came right out of myself working with the mayor. When you look at these new fire stations that were closed when I got elected, that's us working with the officers. When you look at PAD's contract was being held up by Sumla. PAD's contract was being held up. I had to work with PAD, and I had to work with other council members to make sure that we still have PAD. When you need PAD to have an office in the pretrial detention center. So sometimes you may have to, sometimes you may have to go speak truth to power. Sometimes you may have to speak truth to power to make sure that you get the stuff that you want. And developers might not like you, and they may fund people to run against you, and they may say that you don't collaborate. But the goal is to make sure that your area gets what it needs, which is why we have a South Line, Belt Line, making sure that it brings some of the resources that's supposed to come. A Punch City Market. A Punch City Market is what we're looking for in our area. When a Beltline purchased that became a reality to us, so something that actually can happen. So the goal is to continue to work with folks, but also don't be part of a nod squad like we used to have.
The next question is about collaboration. How do residents be confident that as a candidate, you show up?
So to ensure that we are collaborating, I think we first have to ensure before we're able to show up at City Hall, we have to show up in our communities. And so where these conversations, these community-driven solutions that we're taking to City Hall to collaborate on. And so showing up in your community, showing up for neighborhood association meetings, showing up for NPU meetings, showing up even when we don't agree, but continue to be a part of the conversation. That's what I'm going to take to City Hall, and that's how you will know that I'm going to collaborate, because I've been to your neighborhood association meetings. I've been to your NPU meetings. When we're knocking on doors, we're talking about how we can solve issues on the south side of Atlanta. And what I am hearing is we understand that it's changing, but how can we be a part of the solution? And so when we're having those conversations, we know what's going to happen at City Hall.
So I will continue to do what I always do, with showing up. I have been doing this work for a number of years, and every year, each time I have showed up for not just the south side of Atlanta, but for all communities that are similar to ours. And so even outside of my role as the NPU chair, neighborhood association, in my work role, I have been in most of these neighborhoods and fighting for resources for all of us, whether it's indirectly or directly impacting us. So I have fought for policy. I have created tables, collaboration tables, where people can go and talk about housing policy, not just on a city of Atlanta basis, but on the state. So I don't think I have to go out of the state to be able to make changes in my neighborhood. So I've been showing up for a number of years for people in both, and not just in community spaces, but also in the education space. I've been showing up, and I will continue to show up for everybody in District 12. I would be able to, what I will do is to create a process for engaging with you all. It's more than just showing up in the community, but also being responsive to your needs. It may not be when I come into the community that you have something, but having a place where you can call and you can get a phone call back. Creating a quarterly newsletter throughout the whole term that we can have, you can understand what is happening within our district. I would also have townhouse meetings in different parts of our district, not just Serpa, but the entire District 12, so that we can know what is going on and be able to create that relationship that we need. I will have one more thing I wanted to do. I like this. This is where I like, is where I'm sitting there as a community person, is how do we work with NPU presidents, neighborhood association chairs, and organic groups to hear their concerns, so their voice can be a part of the decision-making process that happens at the city. We haven't had that, and so we need that now. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think growing up, I knew who my council person was. I knew who Gloria Tinubu was, Dr. Gloria Tinubu was. I know Derek Bosby right now, which is why they both have endorsed me. What I've seen was a council person that was outside, right? I saw a council person that held events. This past weekend, we held an event that we planned a year ago on our Dare Park Today meeting. Yeah, we planned that meeting because one person came to me and mentioned that she wanted to bring Lifeline, or she wanted to find ways to help people with animals to get certain vaccinations. You know what I did? I looked around. We found someone to actually do this again. We found out Lifeline does this 2 times a year for free, so we don't have to pay for it if we're willing to wait. It took a whole year to actually get that done. So that shows some of the things. And you think about the Pittsburgh Jazz Fest, which they also hosted last weekend, the weekend before. That was before. It's been hosted for a number of years. It's always been in the church. If you talk to our Pastor Hope would talk about how he made the connection to me. How at first Pittsburgh Yard was not as opening to him, but the moment I made the call, it became open. You talk to Mr. Floyd and you look at his high school reunion, how they didn't have a place to go. We made the call to Pittsburgh Yard to open it up. I showed up at all these events. When you look at my goal has been to host more events than any other council person. If you're willing to go, look, you'll see that. We make sure we send out the emails and the text messages. I'll tell you, we did have one hiccup. We had a person working for our office who was running some of the stuff, and when we made a change, we had to restructure and grow from there. And I think if you look at some of the things that you've been seeing since then, the emails, the text messages, the one-pagers that turned into a full book, it was because of growth from the community, telling us what they wanted, and they wanted to know about what we were doing. So if you take a look at the 48 pages and you go look at different websites, you'll see the work we've been doing.
And question for all candidates again. If elected, what will you address on day one? So yeah, if elected, what would you address on day one?
If elected, on day one, I would work on creating a plan for communication with you all in District 12. I think that is a point going in the door, is having a feedback loop for us to communicate on the progress and what we need to do to move forward in District 12. So that would be my number one thing that I would do.
I think day one, the same thing applies. We need to ensure that our office have an open communication channel, and that's for everyone. Again, that's for the community, that's for our partners at every level of government. We have to, of course, we don't know everything, so we have to look up under the hood and learn what's going on also at City Hall, but continue the community engagement piece. And I think part of that is also looking up under the hood to talk about why in some of our neighborhoods, many people have walked away from our neighborhood associations and our MPUs because they don't feel connected. They don't feel heard, and they don't feel a part of. And so that's something that we have to retool as well. And that will be a major thing that I will look out for day one.
I think if you all would continue to keep me moving our district forward, I think on day one, continue to do the work that we're doing. I am proud about my record. I am proud about the work we've done. I'm proud of the growth that where we sunk seen. I grew up here. I lived in this district 38 years. We never seen this many shawls in the ground. When I was elected, I saw our fire station closed for 2 years. I saw our library closed for years. So to see the growth is what I'm here for. So if you keep me, my goal is continue the growth that we've been seeing and to make sure that you all receive this communication efforts. And hopefully you all have signed up for the text messages and emails that we send out multiple times a week.
And last question, why should someone vote for you? Whoever wants to go first.
Again, thank you for the opportunity. I think you should vote for me because this is an identity project for me. It's passion. I grew up here. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Atlanta, like my mother before me and her mother before her. I've seen the challenges that our community has faced for generations. I've heard them. And again, that's why we got into this race. We felt like we could no longer sit on the sidelines, and we needed someone who would advocate on behalf of not only our communities, our residents, but someone who had the intellectual capability to get it done. So that's why I think you all should vote for me. I'll leave it there.
Why I think you all should vote for me is simple. I have been doing this work. I have dedicated my life to doing this work. You'd be surprised on the stories I tell. But I have dedicated my life to doing this work. I have been beating the grounds, organizing, helping people organize, advocate for themselves, and bringing services and resources to the city. But there's only so much I can do. I can tell you some of the things that I have done to get the city and the state to be able to web hope to them and just look at the ideas that we have. But I can only do so much. So I think voting for me to go to the city with the work that I've done in my background and putting me in the seat and in the place to represent you is the reason why, because I have both the community experience on the ground and also the system experience, and I'm the best candidate to be able to bring those things together to make a better District 12.
And thank you. I think you should keep me in office 4 more years, because when you think about me, I'm a person from this community. Elementary school, Cleveland Avenue, middle school, high school, South Carolina, president, elementary school, middle school, high school. I went to college, president of my college, Lincoln University of Missouri. I then left college and went and worked on Capitol Hill for Congressman Lacy Clay Jr. I left from working for Congressman Lacy Clay Jr., took a job with President Barack Obama, I worked in Colorado for President Barack Obama. He brought me back to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I worked on climate change. And I worked in Atlanta on the ACA, in which we were able to sign up over 6,000 people for affordable health care. Right here in our area, I left from working for President Barack Obama. I took a job in the labor movement, for which I traveled for 200 days per year for 6 years, fighting for working people. I was in the room or a part of the team that came up with the word frontline worker, essential worker during the pandemic. And once the pandemic actually happened, I was forced to come home, forced to no longer travel. I then took my treasure, opened up a creative space in my community. I put laptops in there, I put Wi-Fi in there because our kids, they were at home during the pandemic. They didn't have Wi-Fi at home to actually do their work, right? So I put my treasure in there. I kept the lights on. I put a TV in there. I put a heating press in there, and I put a camera in there. You know what's come on there? Kids that have contracts making shirts, kids that shoot videos, kids that have contracts with APS. And I got a kid that lived in a room of house on Lakewood and now goes to Harvard with $495,000. She graduates this year. Another young man who was with me, I signed his mom up for the ACA. He's running for school board president right now. In 2012, full circle moment, 2012, I signed his grandma for the ACA. 2020, he's my campaign manager. 2024, I'm happy that he's running for school board while I'm continuing trying to keep leveling resources for people that need them in our city, the least lost, left out, and don't miss anyone in between.
Now we will take questions from the audience. Gentleman in the back.
So together we represent the chairs of NDUPEX is B. So he would like to ask if they'll commit to coming to all of our meetings moving forward.
I directed at for this values.
Yes, the men and women, and that they also asked if all the candidates would come to their MPU meetings in the future. And what MPUs? Say it again for me.
X, S, and B.
X, S, and B.
The ones you represent.
And yes, the short answer is yes. I've been to the meetings. I go to the meetings. I'll continue to be good is.
And I'll tell you that the goal has always been to hire a person to make sure we don't miss anything. Mario, who I trust, who graduated from Howard University with a major in political science, who attends every single meeting specific to that NPU. And I make sure I can attend as many as possible. I'll grow in my attendance for them, but I can't make a promise to come to every single NPU because I know that sometimes we got basketball games in the community. For the high school, they might have made it to the championship tonight, or our girls' track team may about to happen, or we may have an event where a young person was murdered in our community, and I have to go and make sure their family, because I help pay for the fellows, right? Because council people here, before they didn't help make sure these things was taken care of. So I would try every attempt, but I would make sure that you have a capable person in Mario, graduated from Howard University in DC, making sure, political science major, making sure it happens.
Right.
I would say yes, I will attend all MPUs meeting, but I will be honest that it may be times that I cannot come, but I will make sure that we have representation to be there. But I think it's more than just attending an MPU meeting. I want to take it a step further because I have sat in that seat. I think it's about a partnership and a relationship with the MPU leaders, not just the president, but the entire board. And so I want to have a relationship with you all and not just attend a meeting to give updates.
Good evening. So my question is, why don't you reference the study that came out just last week for APS proposing a restructure of the DSOs? I'm going to speak specifically to the Carver High School plan. I want you to know if you are aware of those plans, and I want to know how you feel about the idea of Carver becoming a district-wide resource and having kids who grow up in this neighborhood not be able to walk to school.
I would go first. I read the first and the second report. I am devastated, not just because of the Carver cluster was in the second phase, but the first phase, it was a school in Mechanicsville, Dunbar Elementary, and Bama. So all of those schools were near and dear to my heart, and so I am devastating now that Carver cluster is in the plan, and also that we are redirecting our kids from the neighborhood schools to go to I think Gideon's would go to the Washington cluster, which they go to Russell Innovation and then to Washington, and then Fitch and Perkinson would go to the South Atlanta's cluster, and with the Carver. So yes, I have a lot of opinion about that, my personal opinion, but I think that we need to figure out questions that we need to ask. There are a lot of unanswered questions before the district make a decision. And so the plan just came out last week, and I actually am having meetings right now to just figure out what parents and other people think about this whole redistricting and repurposing of the schools. Because Silver Middle School will be repurposed as well. So there's a lot that's to unpack there. But I am aware, and I'm staying on top of it.
And just quickly, just to echo that, I remember growing up, I walked to Gideon's Elementary School. I walked to Parks Middle School. I took the bus. I took Marta to Thero High School because it was a magnet school, and of course we had to get over there. But absolutely, it is essential that kids are able to walk to schools in the communities in which they live. And we know that great schools are the backbone of many neighborhoods. So we have to keep our eye on the process moving forward when we're talking about repurposing Carver and other schools. When we get to that point and we have these conversations and we continue to collaborate with our APS representatives. But while we're having these conversations moving forward, if we repurpose some of our buildings, how would that impact our neighborhoods, and whether we're repurposing them for the efforts of providing workforce housing so teachers are able to teach and work in the neighborhoods. And so I don't know exactly what that will look like, but we have to stay engaged in the process.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I actually went to two of the meetings. And I spoke out against it. And so what does speaking out against this look like? It looks like APS and the city of Atlanta have to get together on the number amount, right? That number amount, because the city of Atlanta plans to build 20,000 houses. And so when you look at the school closings, where our kids go to school? If you look at where we're building houses, the schools are already in that area. So I've been loud on saying that even when I went to the meetings, we've been able to snatch Heritage off of that list, because how can kids, it was the only school down in Gilbert Garden, and my goal is to help them snatch the rest of them. Carver High School to me is a jewel of our area. And if you look at all of the housing and all the apartments we're building around it, we have to make sure that redlining that's been going on, right? And that the people that live right across that highway, right across their train track, actually go to Carver instead of down. So we got to make sure we're looking at some of the broke, which is why I'm always loud on saying our mayor said 20,000 houses. The growth of Atlanta is South Poop Creek, Gilbert Garden, Leela Valley, Jonesboro Road. That's where the housing will be built. Why close our schools south?
I was here tonight to represent a lot of the people by our other board members, Power Atlanta. And my question is, how will you all fix the food desert and food insecurity? I know Constance Lewis had been to our organization several times. We are giving away anywhere from 10 to 30,000 pounds of food every Thursday from 2 to 7 to over 40 families that did not get to you, or you don't have the grocery store in the community for them to get there. So how will you also fix the food insecurity and the food desert that's in this area?
Yeah, I'll tell you a lot of things that I've learned. I have to lead in my area. And so when I've learned also that we have a good mayor, he'll tap in right after if I get it started. So if you look at some of the organizations, some of the food organizations, they were able to receive funding. It was through the Mayor's Year of the Youth grant. It was through that possibility. If you look at the grocery store legislation that we passed 2 years ago, it was actually to reach out to grocery store owners to see if we can get someone to come in. We put aside a pot of money that would help them. So there's two things we've done. But my partnerships with organizations like Power, partnerships, that means that I've been looking for locations for organizations like that. My goal is to bring organizations to our district. Power was over in another area at first. And when they came over here, even if they look somewhere else, I'm finding them another place in our area. So if you look at a lot of nonprofits around the city of Atlanta, you look at the funding that my office has spent as a city, you look at us funding a lot of nonprofits, which has brought some more areas in here. You look at Chef Keys and Choices for Kids. That's actually that's actually a turkey fry, but it's also a food insecurity space since you're going into the elementary schools and the middle schools. So the goal has been to make sure that we get the things, but also know that infrastructure brings other things. If you look at the paving of the Beltline, that's going to get us our grocery store because they bought the pad. Apartments started buying a little faster after we paved the South Side Beltline. So that investment will bring the resources that we need.
I would say to the food insecurity, one of them is providing access to fresh fruits and vegetables throughout our community. And so if there are organizations that are out there doing it, how do we support them and continue to do that? But I think also just from talking to the legacy residents, is they talk about this whole model from back in the day, the farmers market. And so they want to see farmers market because they want the fresh fruits and vegetables that they should have, but they don't want to be overcharged because they have a limited income. So how do we bring farmers market back to our neighborhoods? And how do we bring in community-owned, city-owned grocery stores that we can have in our district where people can go and access fresh fruits and vegetables and meats if they want to eat meat in their community? So that's what I would do. And I do support all of the food giveaways, but I think we need something that's more sustainable in our community where you can go at your leisure to get the things that you need.
Mr. Davis. Thank you. And yes, just to add a little bit more to that, we spend time thinking about food access, and we know we have a deficit on the south side of Atlanta, but we also know that we have opportunities on the south side of Atlanta. So we have stores. It's about upgrading those stores and making them a little bit safer. And so we have to pour more resources there. But one of the things I think that we can focus on, so the city of Atlanta has a grocery front that was started by councilmember Matt Westmoreland. And one of the major components of that was to attract major chains. And we already know that major chains are saying that they are not going to come to the south side of Atlanta, more major chains. And so it is my belief that we can use some of those resources into developing our corner stores, our bodegas in our very neighborhoods to make them more attractive, whether that's updating lighting, infrastructure, so that we can keep down crime, to make it more appealing for people to go inside of the stores. We've had programs to get off of the ground prior to this. And some of those owners have stated, well, I mean, we're sitting on produce for, months at a time. It's rotting in our store. So we're trying to come up with some other ways to get rid of that produce. But I think the city has to be a little bit more proactive there as well. We can't allow and give resources to a situation and then don't follow through on those resources. And so we have to be a partner at the table in helping build out these infrastructures, especially when it comes to safe food access. And when we're partnering with organizations, we have to partner with organizations where we're talking about our urban food, our urban farms, where we're growing our own foods in our communities. And not only are we going to have access to fresh foods, but we're sustaining ourselves for generations to come. So we're building a better ecosystem, a better financial ecosystem in our communities that will sustain us for generations to come.
Very good evening. Courtney Sitbury, Southwest Delvin. Roger. My question is briefly, if you can tell me the toughest decision you all have had to make in your current role and why, whether it be in your...
Again, question, what is the toughest decision you've had to make in your current capacity?
I think the toughest decision that I made recently, or that I made that's in the near future, is when I served on the City of Atlanta Water and Sewage Appeals Board. I noticed that I didn't quite understand exactly what we will be tied to and how we will be able to make decisions. And our hands was pretty much tied behind our backs because of city ordinances.
And so if we had a resident that came before us and stated that, hey, we had one spike in our water bill, but we didn't get it fixed and somehow it just magically went away. Well, the city says, well, you didn't get it fixed, but you once had it, so you have to pay for it. And so as a board member, I had to vote and advocate and go against the city ordinances where I made the interpretation that it was valid because of our crumbling infrastructure. And so I understood that many times I stood alone, but I stood it right.
So one of the toughest decisions that I had to make was, it's been a few years ago, but it was during a time when the sale of Turner Field was happening. And the toughest part was communicating with the residents in Summerhill about our legacy residents, about what was taking place. And, it didn't look good because we see now, but they were just so devastated because they felt like they was getting pushed out. And the reality was it could happen, right? And so being able to, having to sit down and talk to them to help them get into the coalition that was forming at the time, it was a good thing for them to have their support and their backbone to help them to advocate, but it was also tough for me to be able to talk to them about what was the reality, what was going on, and that it wasn't going to be stopped and it was going to happen, but this is what we can do. And so I think that was the toughest decision that I had to make. And the conversation, it wasn't a decision, but it was a conversation to have with them about that.
Yeah, it was.
I can actually use on the stuff that's tough on me is when people are hurt. And a young lady who it's when I can't help a person, right? So recently I had a young lady whose mom shot me a message because she was in jail. And she was in jail because she stole something from a mall. And she was on a run for a little while from that theft because she didn't have the money to pay for her probation, right? So she stole something from the mall a couple years ago, and she was on probation. She didn't have the money to pay for her probation, so she stopped going. And her decision, she had been asking me for a job, trying to get a job with the city for an extremely long time. It just kept telling us it's a hiring freeze, right? Just trying to put somebody on the back of the trash truck. She was willing to go to the back of the trash truck. And so to know that she's in jail, and today you saw me send a text message talking about somebody was in jail because I'm reaching out to our clerk, Shay Alexander, telling her to look into how can this young lady at least go to court because she's in jail on probation violation now. And so she doesn't have a court case. And so telling her kids who live with her mom that they hadn't found her yet, or telling her I'm going to do what I can do to get that done. So these are the tough things that are tough decisions that I have to make, because how do I go back and have those conversations? It's all because she going on a job. Like, imagine how she got that job, then she could have paid her probation, then she could have waited probation and filled out the paperwork and said she works. And so all of it goes to that. Or being in a council meeting, reading a text message from a young man who texted me that morning. Same thing, same vein, because you said, what makes me upset? Or read a text message from a young man who told me that same. But he said, all I ask you to do is help me walk in the door with these people. Bro, my kids, I did everything you said on time. I got screenshots, emails, texts, every place you send me the facts. And understand that they won't hire him because he didn't have a high school diploma. And we supposed to hire people without high school diplomas. And I got people fighting me about hiring people without high school diploma. He said he's about to crash out if we don't find him a job. So that's what hurts me. That's what's tough to me.
Yes, it's tough to be
They made a lot of harms. I'll say that. Man. Like, I've been stepping down in the street probably like 2 months and a half now. I got family though that I can go to. It's just family you can't deal with. You know what I'm saying? It's just family sometimes you can't deal with. So I'm asking y'all, she gonna coming up with the district. Oh, we gonna do this. We gonna do that. We gonna do that. It never happened. You know what I'm saying? It's like right now. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell everybody.
I just slept right in the library. Yes, I don't mind. You know why I don't mind? Cause get what? Ain't nobody gonna bother me. I ain't bothering nobody. None of that. But when it comes to us trying to really get things together, let me tell you something, man. You ain't got chiefs in your heart. Ain't nothing gonna come together, brother. Ain't nothing gonna come together. You go talk this, you go talk that, you go read the tablet, you go read this, you go read that, you go read that. Ain't nothing gonna come together. It's just a bunch of person who don't learn how to grow to give you all the industry or the life of what's going on. Yes. They just tell us a bunch of got out BS. So we'll fall for it. You heard I just told him, sir. I just knelt right down. Why y'all don't find for real homes who go on? Okay, you know people lie. It's messed up. Mental. Find some stuff people on somebody the 10th song. See where if they don't want to do it, that's on them. That's on them. If they don't want to get in that program, that's on them. We ain't gotta lock them up. Stop that, man. Stop trying to lock these people up, man. One thing about us, man, I'm gonna tell you something. If you don't give the people a chance, it will not be a chance.
When he talks about you don't want to lock up folks for being houseless, right? That's what I've been getting. That's another one of those things. When I say what's going on, then you get off on T9 75 for about 4 or 5 months, right? That was a young lady by the name of Amber Green right there. I went to high school with her. But she looks I went to high school with her. And I went down to city council. She told we worked this entire time. Me and her texting. I have her caseworker phone number. I know everything about her. I know the police officer that talked to her, right? And so trying to offer services and trying not to lock her up, because she said had she left her spot, she would be put back into the back of the line, right? She was eligible for housing. She was waiting on a social security card. It takes so long for this to happen, right? She goes to a hotel. They says that she's been rehoused, so now she had to find something else. And so we've been working on different things. Can I tell you what we have? Special, just us. The state of Georgia was about to be sued by the federal government had they not built more rehabilitation centers. They could put up to 5 in Fulton County. They're going to do 3. The first one done right here on Metropolitan Parkway. Oak Hill Academy. You can go in there. You know why we did that? It was on my first 12 list, my first campaign. I saw it in Colorado. When I lived in Denver, Colorado, they had this already there. I saw how they took care of people when I worked for Senator Mark Udall while I was in Colorado. And so the goal has been to get things like that done. Then I tricked the city to then help put PAD and pretrial services. And yes, we did trick the city because they didn't know they were already doing that on Metropolitan Parkway. I did. I knew we were doing Metropolitan Parkway and I knew we were doing pretrial, but now that's a double way of making sure we don't arrest people for being houseless, but we offer them services. And we got them right here in our area. And we didn't have to lock Amber Gray up. She ain't animal, right? We didn't have to lock up. We have to get rehoused. I'm hoping she don't leave her housing, but thank you.
We have that's time for to respond to things.
At the ready, very all right. Please, kind of keep it short and sweet. I'm taking it back to the closing of the school. Then when I grew up, because I was in this area too, while going in the Hanfield. When I grew up, I'm trying to say I don't want to offend anyone, but statistically, when I grew up for just hearing different conversations. In the white areas, they've always had a low ratio of students per teachers. Okay, so my question is, why is it that now seemingly
Because in the after Mary neighborhood, there's a low ratio, which to me is better, because that's how a lot of white children are bad. It's better if you have a low student ratio per students. So it does make sense to me. Why would you close the school in the neighborhood, and then with things being as dangerous as they are, why would you not keep schools in the neighborhood? If the developers with the money want to bring you housing, fine, it's in there. But do not close school because it's too dangerous and it costs money. Doesn't it cost city to bus, like when my children in school, to bus them, 30 miles across town, you see? So what APS, in my opinion, needs to do, whatever educational standards that you need to use to pull the standards up in the city, you need to do that. Because 20 students per teacher, that's a bit much. So, I'm against them want to close the school because here it says it's 12 to 14 students per teacher. What's wrong with that? Oh, boy. By the politicians, how they do their numbers thingy, what is wrong with 14 students per one teacher, especially with a lot of the problems that our young children are having nowadays?
And absolutely, I agree with you 100%. Smaller classroom size will allow students the opportunity to learn more and to have those opportunities to have more times with their instructors. So I agree with you 100%. We will continue to work with APS to make sure that we are a part of the conversation. As council members, we understand that this will be a decision that APS will come to, but we will advocate. I will continue to advocate for that, for smaller classroom size and for students to be able to access the schools in their communities.
And you're right. And when I grew up, that's when they changed a little bit. And they were they created the full potential model in the city of Atlanta and Achieve Atlanta. And I remember when they moved me into the full potential class, and my class was a little bit smaller. And we stayed in the same class even when we went to the high schools. But then the government came up with No Child Left Behind. It don't mean it's perfect, but it means that they couldn't do that. And we're trying to be more equitable. So the goal, my goal for sure is to not close any other schools. I am counting the houses coming into the community. I'm counting the houses coming into the community. I'm also looking at my tax bill. Knowing that I pay the most to APS. And I'm wondering, why are they looking at closing schools, or why are my taxes going up? And they're looking at this. So I think that they need to look at the way they spend money. A young man told me yesterday that we have so many people in the school making over I don't know why he said this, making over six figures that don't see kids. And he said they don't see kids. And he then identified the position. Tyrese Miller, he actually identified the position, and they don't see kids. And we have the assistant, the principal got an assistant who got an assistant, right? And sometimes so we have a lot of multiple abilities, Tyrese Miller actually has the amount that we spend as a city on people who don't see kids, who don't see kids at all. And so, thank you.
I think that I'm not for school closure, but I do want to look at, talking about the district being top-heavy, but also looking at the state, because the state is taking money from our schools for the per-pupil rate. That when the seats that are not filled at leveling at 2 weeks within school, I think it's 2 weeks. And so what does that mean for our schools, and how do we close the gap on funding to make sure that we can keep our community schools? I'm not for closing schools, but I want to know more about what is going into this decision for them to make this and keep redoing this plan. But it's always the South Side schools that are in the plan and not getting the big add-ons and all these other things. So why is it not equitable across the district? Why is it just the South Side schools?
So I have a question. I want to piggyback off of the homeless guy that actually just made a comment. I grew up in Atlanta. I'm born and raised, and then I graduated from Terrell High School. So I wanted to piggyback off that. Just purchased one of those affordable homes that you provided, like you say, did. But at the same time, you also mentioned that you help the homeless and, with the pad. Is that something that you just did at that moment? Because let me tell you something about these affordable homes. I got homeless, I got drug addicts walking up and down my street all day, every day. So if that's something that you just did to do at that particular point in time, or is that something that you will actually continue to, maybe a little bit back? Because like I said, I just moved and I in a year.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question too. And it's a good question. And I'm glad I get to expand on what do we do to help Pat. And so I always tell people I majored in political science and I did go work on Capitol Hill. That means I was a power. Bro, can I tell you? I want to tell you what that means.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That will continue.
It's me. Yes, ma'am. But that way you can get where it's coming from. Because it's a specific reason why it's about policy. Right? And so what I learned in D.C. is that you have a certain amount of time before legislation actually can get called on the floor. And so you can create some legislation and you can go all the way through the committee meetings, but it won't never get to the floor. And so I reached out to Pat Moki herself because the contract was being held up. She didn't know why I was being held up. She told me off record some things, but I then gave her the plan to how to get her contract that was approved by the city council done. And I reached out to councilmember Amir Faroki. Well, I told her to come to the council meeting, a lot of people. So they came down to the council meeting with just as many people here. I then told her to call Councilmember Amir Faroki's name because he's the one who can call it in the council meeting. Councilmember Faroki then called his name, called that legislation in that council meeting, but they did not know that until I gave them that information. So they passed that, and Pat is now funded, and they lost the
candidates. What would you guys do difference? Based off of waking up there, what would you do?
So I think, in addition to what PAD does, because if PAD comes out and a person refuses the services, that's where they can't make them go, right? So I think it's more than with the unhouses, how do we get them housed? And so there is some transitional homes that are coming up. I think it's one down by Greyhound bus stations, another one coming up on Memorial Drive. Is how do we get them to be able to go to those places and get the service, to get off of the street and get out of the weather? So it's more than just PAD, but it's because they refuse PAD, they're going to stay there. So how do we help them understand there are other resources that they can use to get housing, and once they get into that transitional housing, they can get stable to get all those wraparound services they need so that they can be out and be productive citizens and sit in rooms like this to have their voice heard. So there is some ways, and I think that is tapping into those transitional ways and being able to move them into those housing or apartments when they are ready to do so with a job. We have one coming up in Cooper Street project in the Mechanicsville community. That's for like the unhoused people that's American.
And just quickly, just to echo on that, I mean, providing adequate housing and wraparound services for them so that they're able to, again, be participating citizens in our communities and in our society. But the issue, again, is getting them there. And so, again, we have to focus on those things, and we have to continue to be progressive in that.
My name is Deanna Rixid-Champion. The City of Atlanta has recently stopped funding gun violence prevention groups that are doing the work in communities. If elected, how are you calling resources to help these organizations so they can keep working in the community to do what we all need, because it's dangerous?
And once again, I feel good about that about that question, because my first year in office, if you look at what we've done to my first year in office, we took $35,000 of our funding, and the mayor found 15, to make it even 50. We were able to give it to an organization, and that led to the Year of the Youth. If you look at it, a lot of the funding for the gun violence programs came out there, but let me be even further. Before that happened, I reached out to 5 organizations in the city of Atlanta. I asked them how much funding do they need to be okay. I tried to ask for $125,000. I got the support of city council. Before I put that legislation in, someone came to the side of the door and they said, if you hold that legislation, we'll work on something bigger. What came was organizations being able to reach out to the city of Atlanta, these nonprofits for the first time, reach out to the city of Atlanta and receive that funding. That doesn't mean that it was ran how I would have set it up fully, but it was set up through partnership with us. So that's the way I think you actually get it done. You have to go into the general fund,
to get funding, or you can look at the legislation we did on the public safety training facility, in which we asked that 25 cents of every dollar goes to fund these type of issues.
I would do, so the gun violence work, I would tell you all that through my work role, I actually helped form that table for gun violence. I was the one that went to Chicago and to Boston to do the site visit with Cure Violence to bring gun violence services to the city of Atlanta. We walked the pink store down on McDaniel Street and we seen what was going on. So I think it's more so than the city may not be funding it, but I'm willing to use my connections and my resources that I had when I helped form that table with the CDC, with Emory, and with Greater Health System to figure out how do we get funding for our gun violence work, because it is important and we should continue to do that. And I'm willing to step into the council role, but using my resources to make sure that we can have adequate funding for our gun violence work, so that if the city decides to cancel and not fund it, you guys can be still sustainable and to do the work that you need to do.
And to be honest, I don't have too much to add to that, but the same exactly, we have to work with our partners. There's funding out there.
Yeah.
It's out there. It's available. We have to be vigilant. You know, I get told that's why I talk a little slower. But we have to work with our partners to turn on that tab.
Thank you all for coming out once. Keep going.